Well, for a little bit more on this, we're now joined by the CEO of the Gauteng enterprise Propeller, Saki Zamxaka. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter.
This sounds like a very exciting initiative. Do you think it might be a game changer?
Thank you, Peter. We do think it will be a game changer. It's a structure which has been talked about a long time. If you'd recall, when SMME was formed, part of the idea was that government needs to come to the party and match the funding. And that's exactly what we did. ITC put 100 million, as we said, SMME put 100 million, and the provincial government through the GEP put another 100 million. Now, the ITC, while it's a state-owned company, borrows part of the money in the market, so they have loan covenants to respect. So in a way, we've been able to then use the 100 million to leverage a further 200 million. So that increases the pool of funds which are available for entrepreneurs, mainly in the townships. But over and above that, it also allows us to leverage on their own infrastructure where we may not have branches, we may not have systems or human capital. So it's really a big game changer. In a way, it's almost like alternative banking.
All right, tell us how it's going to work. I'm in the township, I'm an entrepreneur, or I have an idea. Can I approach the fund, or is this to inject into existing businesses?
Yes, entrepreneurs who may not already be clients of some of these implementing partners can apply. So you can apply directly to Indlu in the case of the backyard rentals. There's a profit share in the case of a contract and purchase order financing. There's credit capital. So there's a couple of implementing partners that we're working through, and the entrepreneurs can then reach them directly to apply. They can still apply to the ITC and the GEP directly, but the idea of what we've done is that it improves access. And of course, we've also made sure that there's a cap on the cost of funding so that it is still affordable to entrepreneurs. So yes, new entrepreneurs who are not existing clients can apply.
I'm just wondering, I mean, 300 million sounds like a lot, but when I start to think about the township economies and how many there are, it might not be a lot. I guess there's always a need for more. Is this enough to start something?
It's definitely not enough, Peter. So at this stage, we had basically a 500 million rands fund because ITC put 200 million, the province put 200 million, and then we have the additional of SMME, which is 100 million. So 300 has been committed. There's a further 200 that we're putting through other implementing partners who are also matching us 1 rand for 1 rand. But we already engaged with what government calls the MTech process, which is medium-term expenditure process, where we're saying, well, there's a case to recapitalize this fund so that it can reach more entrepreneurs. I think part of what has generally happened is that a lot of the funds that are set up for SMEs have not always been able to deploy the funds. So there's always reluctance on how much you put as a start in capitalizing funds of this nature. And this one, after being established effectively within 6 months, 60-75% of it was committed. So it's been a demonstration that not only is there a need for it, but that there is a pipeline. So that conversation is taking place, and we're hoping the province within the next, hopefully 6 to 12 months, will then look at recapitalizing the fund. But for us, the most important thing was the start and demonstrating that these kinds of structures can work. So I agree with you that the requirement is a lot more. And we're bringing other state-owned companies like your CIFAs, and there's a few commercial ones as well that are coming onto the party. So I think if we can channel the existing funds a lot better than they are at the stage. There's a lot more also we can achieve.
Well, I suppose as we talk, and maybe the focus might be on the intermediaries themselves, but there is a ripple effect, isn't there, to builders and electricians and so on and so forth?
No, definitely. And that's the thing, about the entire value chain. When we were in Tembisa yesterday, one of the partners that's doing purchase order financing was telling us of one entity that had a contract and came to them asking for working capital of 500,000 to do, one of their transactions. And overall, they were generally turning over about 500,000 a month. And they're saying within a couple of months, their turnover jumped to 8 million because they now had access to capital. Now, the supplier was getting 4 or 5 times the orders that they were getting. The entrepreneur is getting a bit more profit. Of course, they can employ a little bit more people into them. So there is really that. But as you say, even on property, there's materials that are done about, but once the property is operating, there's also maintenance. Somebody needs to maintain, clean them. Once in a while, they must be painted. There's plumbing, there's electrical jobs. So there's a lot of spin-off in the areas, but the entrepreneurs as well who are getting the income, they're also spending the income in the economy. So really the multiplier is pretty big on these funds.
And I guess one hopes that this perhaps might be a blueprint that can be used by other provinces downstream.
Definitely. We've already started having conversations with other provinces where we're sharing how this has been structured. And the IDC is already doing that. SMME has also had engagements at a national level to see how this can be done. So it's really a blueprint that is very practical. There's been talk about these first loss facilities, but we haven't seen one that has been as effective at the scale that we've been able to implement this. So certainly it already is starting to be something that is being considered in other provinces.
What role can the private sector play here?
So the role for me, it's not only government that has the ability to take, the first loss risk, which we've taken. With the new BE rules that put emphasis on other things other than just equity, and one of those is enterprise supply development. There's money that corporates are supposed to spend to support small businesses. They can redirect those funds and put them as first loss facilities to leverage funding, whether with government or with other private sector entities. So I think the risk is always going to be limited if we're only looking at government funds. There are private sector funds which go into grants or soft lending, which can also be blended into this. And there's a financial institution, here in the province, which has made a commitment on its ESD funding, and we're looking at how that can be structured, because if it is done properly, it then increases on the funds that can be done. So I think the private sector mustn't only look at topping up where we're taking the first part of the risk. They can, on their own, with the funds they have, come to the party, join us, join the IDC, join other provinces and other DFIs, in increasing the pool of risk funds. Because when the economy grows, as you were saying, the benefit is big in the economy.
And that's where we'll leave it. Thank you very, very much indeed. Congratulations on this launch, and we wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, that's Saki Zamxaka, who's the CEO of the Gauteng enterprise Propeller, talking to us about this launch of this 300 million rand SMME fund for township entrepreneurs.